Some stories don't need words. They speak through emotions, through silence, through moments. Here, every frame is a story, every pause is a message. Welcome to Tales Beyond Words, where silence speaks and feelings tell the tale. Welcome to Tales Beyond Words, where silence speaks and feelings tell the It was a regular Monday morning at Jefferson High School, nestled in a quiet countryside town in the United States. Students arrived in their shiny cars, clutching Starbucks cups, laughing about weekend parties. The hallways buzzed with noise, branded sneakers squeaking across the polished floors, loud chatter about prom dresses and college dreams. Among them walked Ethan Miller, a quiet, soft-spoken 14-year-old boy wearing worn-out jeans, a faded flannel shirt, and muddy boots. His backpack was old, the zipper half broken, and he carried a lunchbox his mom had packed with homemade bread and apple slices from their small farm. Ethan was the son of a local farmer, Jacob Miller. They didn't have much, but they had pride, hard work, and dreams that couldn't be bought at the mall. The moment Ethan stepped inside, the whispers began. "Look at those boots. Did he walk through a cow field? OMG, is that homemade bread? That's gross. I heard his family doesn't even have Wi-Fi." Ethan tried to ignore it. He had come here not to impress, but to learn. His father had saved for years just to get him into this private school. "Son," his dad had said that morning, "you might be a farmer's kid, but your future is yours to write." In math class, Ethan sat quietly in the back, solving every equation before the teacher even finished explaining it. But no one noticed his talent. They only saw his clothes. By lunchtime, the bullying had intensified. One rich kid, Tyler, bumped into him on purpose, knocking Ethan's lunch to the floor. "Oops," Tyler smirked. "Didn't mean to ruin your peasant meal." The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Ethan bent down quietly, picking up his crushed bread, trying not to cry. He didn't want to give them that power. But someone was watching, Principal Adams. He walked over, not to discipline the bullies, but to address Ethan. His tone was stern, his face cold. "Mr. Miller, can I see you in my office?" Ethan followed him, confused, nervous, and trying to stay strong. He'd done nothing wrong. The principal closed the office door and leaned forward. "Ethan, I've had several complaints. Your appearance, your lack of social fit, and frankly, your background, it's becoming a distraction. This school is built on high standards. We expect our students to represent a certain image." Ethan blinked, unsure what to say. "Sir, I just want to learn. I'm not here to cause problems." Principal Adams sighed. "I'm sure you're a smart kid, but this isn't the place for someone like you. You might be better off at the public school down the road." Ethan's throat tightened. "Are you expelling me?" "I'm suggesting what's best for everyone," the principal replied coldly. "You'll be officially removed by the end of the day. Please have your father pick you up." Ethan stood up, his fists clenched but his voice steady. "Okay, sir, I understand." He walked out of the office slowly, not crying but broken inside. The same students who laughed at him earlier now watched in silence as he gathered his bag and walked out the door. One teacher gave him a sympathetic look, but no one said a word. As Ethan stepped into the sunlight, he saw his father's old pickup truck pulling into the parking lot. His dad's hands were covered in dirt, his hat soaked in sweat. But his smile faded when he saw the look on his son's face. "Ethan, what happened?" "They kicked me out, Dad," Ethan said quietly. "They said I didn't belong." For a moment, Jacob Miller said nothing. Then he put a strong, calloused hand on his son's shoulder. "Then maybe it's time they find out who we really are." That night, in the farmhouse, Ethan sat quietly while his father made phone calls. Strange calls, business calls. He mentioned companies, contracts, technology. Ethan didn't fully understand, but he knew something was happening. The next morning, Jefferson High looked just as it always did, until a deafening sound filled the air. Thump, thump, thump. Students and teachers rushed outside as a huge black helicopter descended onto the school's football field, causing dust and papers to fly everywhere. It was sleek, expensive, clearly owned by someone powerful. The side door opened. Out stepped a man in a suit, followed by another younger man in formal clothes. Gasps echoed through the crowd. It's Ethan!" The boy they laughed at yesterday now stood taller, more confident. wearing polished shoes and a calm smile. Behind him, his father stepped out too, no longer just a farmer, but someone different. Principal Adams stumbled forward. What is the meaning of this? Ethan smiled slightly. This is just the beginning, he said. As the helicopter's blade slowed and the dust settled, all eyes remained locked on the boy stepping onto the football field, Ethan Miller. Just 24 hours earlier, he'd been kicked out of Jefferson High for being too poor. Now he stood in front of the same crowd, his clothes pressed and polished, his posture proud. But his eyes weren't filled with revenge. They carried something stronger: purpose. Behind him stepped his father, Jacob Miller, no longer in muddy boots and a sun-worn hat, but in a tailored suit. His hands were still the hands of a working man, but his presence now carried a different kind of weight. Principal Adams, still recovering from the shock, stormed toward the field. "What is this? Who gave you permission to land here? This is outrageous." Jacob calmly stepped forward. "Permission? You must have missed the memo. This land, this entire field, was purchased last night." The crowd gasped. A few students pulled out their phones to record. The teachers whispered among themselves. Principal Adams froze. "Purchased? What are you talking about?" Ethan answered. "My father closed a deal with Green Tech Corp yesterday. His agricultural innovations are being adopted across 6 states. The stock price tripled overnight. We're now the majority shareholders in a company worth billions." Jacob added, "And one of my first moves was to invest in local education, starting with the very place that tried to humiliate my son." There was silence, utter silence. Ethan looked straight at Principal Adams. "Yesterday I was a farmer's son in old clothes. Today I'm the legal owner of the land this school stands on. But even if I had nothing, I'd still deserve respect. Every child does." A few students started clapping, then more. Teachers joined. The cafeteria workers, janitors, many of whom knew Ethan's family, smiled through tears. Principal Adams looked pale. This must be a misunderstanding, Ethan. I didn't mean to offend. I was just—" Ethan cut in. "You judged me before I even opened my mouth. You saw dirt on my shoes and missed the gold in my ideas. That's not just unfair. It's dangerous. How many other kids have you pushed away?" Jacob stepped forward. "We're not here to humiliate you, Principal. We're here to bring change." He pulled out a folder and handed it to the school board chair, who had just arrived after hearing about the helicopter landing. "These are the terms. We're donating $10 million to Jefferson High under one condition. Principal Adams must resign immediately, and the school must adopt an inclusivity policy. No child will ever be judged by their background again." The crowd gasped again. Principal Adams turned red, then pale, then red again. You can't do this." The board chair, a stern woman named Mrs. Hartley, opened the folder, skimmed the documents, and looked up with authority. "Actually, Mr. Adams, they can. The board just held an emergency vote. You're officially relieved of your duties, effective immediately." Gasps turned to cheers. The students were practically erupting with applause. Some of the very kids who had mocked Ethan yesterday now looked at him with awe and a little bit of shame. Ethan turned to face the students. "I'm not angry. I just want you all to remember something. Greatness doesn't come from money or fancy clothes. It comes from how you treat people, from how hard you're willing to work, from never giving up when the world laughs at you." His voice was steady, but his eyes welled up. "I used to think I didn't belong here. But today I realized no one has the right to tell you where you belong. You decide that." Jacob added, "We're starting a new scholarship program. It's called the Farmer's Son Fund. It'll help kids from working-class families get the education they deserve, without shame." The applause grew louder. Students came forward one by one to shake Ethan's hand. Tyler, the boy who had bullied him, stepped forward too. I'm sorry, Ethan, I was wrong." Ethan looked at him and nodded. "Be better, that's all I ask." Weeks later, Ethan was back at Jefferson High, not as a student but as an honorary board member. He still lived on the farm, still helped his dad with the animals, but he also gave talks at schools across the state. His story became national news. "Farmer's son turns billionaire investor in 24 hours," was trending across every social media platform. But Ethan never let the fame get to him. He still packed homemade lunches. He still wore flannel. But now kids looked at him differently, not because he was rich, but because he was real. In his final speech of the semester, Ethan stood in front of the entire school and said, "Success doesn't come from changing who you are to fit in. It comes from staying true to yourself, no matter how small you feel. Remember, every oak tree was once just an acorn that refused to give up." And with that, the boy they once laughed at walked off stage. No longer just the farmer's son, but a symbol of hope for every kid who's ever been told, "You don't belong."